Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Cotton Grower Magazine's Cotton Companion Podcast. Fall's in the air, and I know it is because my annual fall sinus cold has begun. And if you're in or near a cotton field, you might just catch a whiff of defoliant. That means we're getting to the report card part of the cotton year, where yield, grade, and a season's work get their final evaluation. I'm Jim Stedman, editor of Cotton Grower, and with me, as always, is my colleague and friend, Beck Barnes. Now, Beck, obviously, this is an exciting and sometimes nerve-wracking time for cotton growers. USDA reported this week that 13% of the total U.S. crops already been harvested, with the leaders in this week's clubhouse. With Louisiana's got 36% of their crop done, Texas 24%, Arizona 16%, and your home state of Mississippi hanging in there at 15% already out of the field.
Yeah, it's going to be that time of year. I know that in my home state of Mississippi, at least north of Clarksdale, which is closer to me, closer to us, I should say, up here. Everything's been defoliated. All the leaves are on the ground and looking white and showy and picture ready. It's looking good, to be honest. I mentioned it last week, but my gosh, everything off the side of Highway 61 looks, magazine picture quality ready, frame the picture and hang it above the mantel place ready. It's just really showy and pretty through there. They're a little behind schedule south of there once you get into kind of deep Delta where I'm from, but they'll be there soon enough, looking showy and white. Over there in the hills, I don't know a whole lot about that. That's like foreign territory to me. Only go through there when I'm headed to Tuscaloosa to watch my rebels get suffocated like they did last weekend by the tide. So we'd have to check in. We'd have to check in with our old buddy Keelan Golston to get a report from over there in the hills.
Well, I saw Keelan, a week or so ago, and no, he's not. He's ready to defoliate, but he wasn't quite there yet. He wanted another week or two, which I think was pretty much the story across most of the Mid-South.
Yeah,
at this point,
sitting on go, feels a little bit like when they're getting ready to plant, and everybody's gets that itchy trigger finger, for a couple of weeks.
All the sprinters are lined up on the starting line, just waiting for the gun.
Yeah, no doubt
at this point. Yeah, we're going to look at the rest of those USDA numbers here in just a couple minutes. But obviously, as many of you know and follow, Cotton Grower publishes our Crop Scan Ag Report twice monthly during the growing season on cottongrower.com, and that includes reports from contributing cotton consultants in North Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, Central Texas, and West Texas. Now, we posted our final report for 2023 this week, and getting this year's crop ready for harvest is the primary focus all across the cotton belt right now, as more and more acres are set for defoliation over the next few weeks. Now, there were some weekend rains and some wind from a tropical storm over in the Carolinas, but the damage, from what we understand, was not significant, was not really a problem, and consultants are basically saying the crop looks really good. Fingers are crossed for solid results, and the one thing everybody will tell you right now is we do not need rain. So, from what we hear, this year's shaping up to be solid, not great year overall, not as good as last year, but one of the pleasant surprises of the year has been the on-farm performance of Bayer's new ThryvOn technology. Growers that were able to get their hands on varieties containing ThryvOn have been raving about the savings it's provided for plant bug management, also about the high level of thrips control from the technology. We got an update on ThryvOn's year at a recent event in Scott, Mississippi. While I was there, I had an opportunity to sit down with Tyson Raper, who's University of Tennessee Extension cotton specialist, Ben Thrash, who's University of Arkansas Extension entomologist, and Hank Jones, who's an independent cotton consultant in Louisiana, to discuss their impressions of the technology this year and the benefit it offers to cotton growers. That discussion for you in just a few minutes, so stay tuned.
Yeah, that'll be a good one, man. That's a good group you got together with. So a lot of knowledge between those three fellas. So first thing we want to do, as you alluded to, Jim, is check in on just a couple of quick news items from around the industry. We already discussed harvest numbers from USDA's crop progress report from September 25. That was just yesterday as we record. Today's 26. But report also showed a few other things, some more context. Firstly, bolls are now open in 65% of the total U.S. crop. That's up 10 points in just the past week. And overall cotton condition continues to slide, with 30% of the crop rated good to excellent, 28% rated fair, and 42% rated poor to very poor. Now, those lower numbers are skewed by the poor ratings in Texas and Oklahoma, both over 60% rated poor to very poor there. You know, one thing, Jim, to go off track just briefly here, when I was at a ACP meeting last year, there was a fella up there who, made sure to note that acres that have been just totally lost at this point, zeroed out, don't get included in these percentages. So, there is a rating that's even lower than that poor to very poor, and that is stuff that's already been given up on that will not be harvested. So, that's a doom and gloom aside, but it's worth noting. So, to having a tough time on a lot of those acres in the Southwest. But there are also some good, fantastic high ratings on the other end of the spectrum, primarily out there in California, Virginia, Tennessee, Arizona, and Arkansas, particularly having really nice years at this point late in the season. Now, if you got even one field out there that's maybe in that good to excellent rating, let me tell you about the Cotton Board's annual photo contest, which is now underway, as the organization is looking for calendar-worthy cotton photos for the 2024 Cotton Board calendar. The winning photo will be featured in the 2024 calendar, which is mailed to every U.S. cotton producer in Jenner. So this is your chance to get cotton industry famous. You can give them a good photo. Now, a couple of things to remember for entries. Cotton at any stage of production must be the focal point of the image. Photos should be taken in horizontal orientation and be at least 300 dpi, and no humans should be in the photo. Now, to be eligible to win, contestants must first like the Cotton Board's Facebook page, which you should already be doing. It's a great Facebook page to be following. And then email your high-res JPEG photo to sgorman@cottonboard.org. That's Stacy Gorman's email address, so I'll spell it for you. SGORMAN@cottonboard.org. And up to 3 entries per contestant will be considered. The contest ends on Thursday, October 5. The winner will be announced on World Cotton Day on Saturday, October 7. Big day. Be prepared. Get ready to celebrate World Cotton Day on October 7. And in addition to their photo and photo credit in the calendar, the winner will also receive a cotton prize pack. So you can find out more details about the Cotton Board contest at cottongrower.com. And lastly here, another familiar name has signed on with the U.S. Cotton Trust Protocol. That's Macy's, Inc., is the newest protocol member, representing more than 700 store locations nationwide across the Macy's, Bloomingdale's, and Blue Mercury nameplates, forgive me. The Trust Protocol membership will bolster Macy's efforts in sourcing cotton sustainably, driving positive social and environmental change within the cotton industry, and enhancing transparently throughout its supply chain. So big shout out to Macy's. We're going to be in the parade, y'all. We're going to be in the Thanksgiving parade. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I think that's that would be an interesting possibility. Maybe we can get a cotton boll balloon. How about that?
Where do you go about getting one of those big old balloons, man? I don't know. I'm going to call I'll call the Cotton Board and we'll get to working on it.
Yeah.
We got about 30 days here to figure it out.
And I think Macy's would be thrilled to have it.
There you go.
There we go. Okay. Well, anyway, since the late 1990s, the cotton industry of traits and technologies that have been real game changers for cotton production. And this year brought the commercial introduction of the new ThryvOn technology from Bayer, which is primarily focused on more efficient management of plant bugs and thrips. As we mentioned earlier, its first year in growers' fields has shown some impressive results. So here's my discussion about some of those results and the potential for the technology with Tyson Raper, Ben Thrash, and Hank Jones. There's been a lot of conversation about the ThryvOn technology for several years as research studies have evaluated the benefits and value of the product. And finally, we saw registration for it early this year. It's now in growers' fields. And certainly it's now, as we're nearing harvest, it's probably a good time to talk about how it performed there. So joining me today are Tyson Raper, who's University of Tennessee cotton specialist, Ben Thrash, who's University of Arkansas's extension entomologist, and Hank Jones, an independent consultant from Louisiana. Gentlemen, thanks for taking time to join in.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
Okay. Now, each of you have had the chance to see and work with this technology for a couple years, both on an official and unofficial basis. What was your first impression of it, and how has it met or exceeded any expectations you might have had?
Well, I mean, from the insect standpoint, it's like everybody knows, it's been really, really impressive on thrips. I mean, it's as good as anything or better than, Timid Aldicarb used to be. So as far as thrips goes, it has exceeded expectations for me. Plant bugs, it looks really, really good on plant bugs as well. And depending on your plant bug pressure, some of our research has shown that you can save anywhere from 1 to 5 applications, depending on your plant bug pressure. So I think as far as insect control goes, it's going to bring quite a bit to the table.
Okay.
I'll echo what Ben said. This is the first time most any of us have ever seen blemish-free cotton. It's incredible to see what perfect cotton looks like. ThryvOn gives us that chance. And but one of the things that impresses me the most about it is that it comes out of the ground like a galloping racehorse, when it's not being impeded, the growth being impeded by thrips. So that's, I think, a value that we're in the infancy of knowing how much does that mean to us.
Right.
I think over the years, we'll be able to develop, programs around having cotton not being thrip damaged. So, which a lot of that builds to it starting to fruit faster. And so, and as Ben said with the, the plant bug issues, there's some security knowing that you have something out there that's going to help you that's not an insecticide.
Right.
And that we've got something 24 hours a day that at least gives you something being out there helping curtail these populations and keeping them from blowing up. So that's a value to the farmer and certainly a value to me as a consultant.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Tyson?
Over the past couple of years, 3 years really, we've been able to see the technology, and we've had tremendous thrips pressure in that same time frame. So loss of acephate effectiveness on thrips has been very troublesome for us. This technology came at exactly the right time, and it's really driven adoption in Tennessee and I think throughout the Mid-South. Just from a thrips standpoint. Now, there's obviously value there from a plant bug standpoint, and how we maximize that return on investment, I'm not exactly sure. And I'm really happy to have great entomologists here in the region to be able to solve that, answer that question. But yeah, it's an exciting time to be in the cotton industry.
Mm-hmm. When we talked about thrips, how do you see it impacting thrips treatment for growers? I mean, there's some long established procedures and processes, that growers have done in the past for thrips control. What are they going to how are they going to adjust to this? How are they going to manage from this point on?
I mean, in Arkansas, I'm not recommending anybody treat for thrips on ThryvOn cotton. And I think there's going to be somewhat of a learning curve with this technology. Just, you're still going to have thrips out there on the plant, and herbicide injury, sandblasting, things like that can be confused pretty easily with thrips injury.
Right.
And because thrips are still going to be on the plant, some people are going to still call it thrips injury, and they're going to want to treat for thrips on this technology. But man, we've never seen a response for treating thrips on ThryvOn cotton, and I don't think anybody in the U.S. has, no researcher I've talked to has seen any kind of beneficial response to treating thrips on this technology. So that's going to be kind of a trust issue. Just, if you got some herbicide injury and you got sandblasting, the cotton looks rough, you're just going to have to trust that technology is working for you, with regards to thrips. And that's going to be kind of a big learning curve.
I think one of the benefits in my mind in trying to implement an IPM program for farmers is with ThryvOn, as Ben said, there's really no need to spray for thrips. Certainly because just the injury just isn't there. But in many times we're triggering our sprayings based off of, hey, do we have some immature thrips out there? Are we seeing damage? How much of this can we take before we actually do spray? But with every insecticide application, there's benefits and there's consequences. And sometimes the consequences of spraying for thrips are flaring other insects,
right,
like cotton aphids or spider mites or something along those lines. When you eliminate that, it does allow you to build an IPM program a little bit more soundly, without the fear of having, flaring some other secondary pests. So that's one thing I like about the program there is that, you can eliminate an upfront spray that could cause something worse, because nobody wants spider mites on two-leaf cotton.
Well, and from how do growers react or change? They're going to have more free time in that window. So, and that's been one of the things that I think is a tremendous value, especially the growers got corn, soy, and wheat in the field all at the same time. Instead of stopping planting and going to do something else, and now thrips are going to be in that time frame. They're completely out of the equation. So it frees us up to be a little more timely with some of the other inputs on some of these other commodities.
And allows for some efficiency on the farm.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It sort of frees up the ability to do this over here, or not worry about your other field that might be 2 counties away on it. All right, plant bugs. What kind of impact did you see this year? And I'm sure this one was probably tough for growers in terms of when they see plant bugs, they think immediately we got to treat. What kind of mindset did they have this year, and how do you think this technology impacted some of those processes?
Well, I can speak to, I guess, a few of the growers I've talked to, and some phone calls and conversations I've had just discussing with guys on how to go forward managing some of this technology. Because, it's new, and we're all still learning some with regards to how to manage plant bugs in this technology. But, I did calls, guys were surrounded by corn, and they're going, well, I'm running 5 plant bugs per drop, but I'm still at 92% square retention, and I'm going out with a PIX application. Do you think I need to treat for plant bugs? And I'm like, well, just based on the number of squares that you got out there, your square retention, it sounds like you're okay. But of course that comes back to, next week, are you going to have to come back and treat? So you're already above our normal recommended threshold. What would you do in that situation? And probably if it was my farm and I was already going across the field, I'd go ahead and treat. But, as far as if I was going across that same field just for plant bugs, I probably wouldn't do it, just based on my square retention numbers. So there's still just going to be a lot of little things like that we're going to have to think about. You're going to have to pay a lot of attention to square retention and just what your plant's doing, and not just pay attention to the bugs.
Yeah. Hank, you mentioned trust with when it came to thrips. I'm sure with plant bugs, that trust factor has to go up a little bit more.
I was asked earlier today, how long do you think it takes to develop trust in this technology for plant bugs? And this year was my 3rd year looking at it on acres, I'll put it that way. And first year, there was I was slow to develop trust, because you can still find plant bugs. The migration out of corn and other alternate hosts is still going to take place. But it takes a year of looking at it, I think, to say, all right, well, that's what it can do. And then year 2, you make a few little subtle changes. Hey, I'll tinker around with maybe not being as aggressive. Let's see if I can trust this technology. But year 3, I've had, I think, maybe the same experiences that y'all have had, that there's a point where you really got to stand tall against these plant bugs during the migration
Right.
with the adults. But after 3 years, I've noticed these immature populations just don't explode at any given time. So you've got a good degree of reaction time, yes, to be able to say, hey, they're calling for 30% chance of rain for the next 2 days. Probably ought to spray, but let's hold off till after all this.
Right.
Or maybe you don't have to be in a hurry to go 3 counties over to spray 400 acres. You can just wait until you get your free time and just send your hand over there, then finish up corn water before you go do that. So there are little things like that are subtle, but I think they're as meaningful as anything whenever we start talking about this system as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about thrips control, and it's not just about plant bug control. It's about, this is going to allow us to be efficient in ways that we didn't think possible. We mentioned wash-offs. I think Ben did earlier today. Nobody likes to go out there and spray transform and diamond tank mix and spend that $30 an acre and it rained 2 hours later.
Right.
You can tinker around with the timing of that going out by air with this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's, as the years go by, as we get 4 or 5 years into this, there's going to be little things I think that pop up that are added value,
Right.
To this, just not just as a PT, against thrips.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think with any of these technologies that we've seen over the last 20 years or so, it's like you learn so much more about what you're going to do 2 to 3 years into the introduction.
I think about diamond. Mm-hmm. It took 5, 6, 7 years for us to figure out the best ways to use diamond and cotton. And now, the new technology like this comes along, it's going to be equally so.
Yeah.
So.
Tyson, let me ask you a question on this. We know what the product has shown in terms of thrips and plant bug situations. How is it going to impact, or how can it impact other factors in terms of crop production? Other facets.
It's a very good question. It's one that we're trying to wrap our hands around right now. I think, generally feel confident that there's a potential for this to make the crop earlier across the board if it's put in an early maturing variety. And I do think that's important to note right now in our area. Early maturing varieties make up the majority of what we have in a ThryvOn platform. Later maturing varieties are on their way, but they're not quite here yet. If we think about retaining more fruit lower on the plant, you would assume that would likely regulate growth. So the need for plant growth regulators would likely decline. And you can stretch that a little further. There may be an opportunity, given that we're making potentially a smaller plant, that we could refine not only population but also fertility. Mm-hmm. I don't want to extrapolate too much, but yeah, I think this stands the production system a little bit on its head moving forward. And we really need to move. Hank mentioned, 5 and 7 years down the road, we'll better understand what we should have done, maybe even now, with it taking quite some time to figure out some of these new products like this. But yeah, I think we're gonna have some big changes from an agronomic standpoint moving forward.
Okay. Any other comment? Any other thoughts on that?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, now that we've got a year under our belt and moving into year 2 with growers, what kind of expectations are you getting from hearing from growers, expectations or hopes moving into next year?
I think that everybody that I've talked to, most of all, has been pretty happy with the insect control. I think overall people are just looking at what new varieties are coming out. I guess to really see what this technology can do in some other varieties is kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I would say certainly the varieties. You know, everybody's wanting to know,
Sure.
you know, where is this going to pan out? The biggest thing that for my farmers was a lot of my farmers tried ThryvOn. Some of them pretty good acres, some of them and just look at. They're wanting to be majority ThryvOn this coming year because of thrips. And after we got out there in some of these fields, we were having to spray twice for thrips and really didn't have much to show for it after 2 shots for thrips. They're like, I'm planting ThryvOn next year. Now, proof will be in the yield, of course, but visual differences mean something. You know, whenever you've paid for that technology to work, now you can see it with your own 2 eyes 10 days after you plant it.
Right.
And so these guys bought in pretty quick as soon as they could see that, hey, there was a major difference between what the cotton looked like. And then that carried over into, you know, hey, we got pin-in squares in this way sooner than we did our conventional cotton. So it's, most everybody's already chomping at the bit to get yield data so they can go ahead and make their orders, things like that. So,
Okay. Knowing that this year's introduction, you're a limited number of varieties from several seed companies. Next year, we obviously anticipate a lot more varieties available on the market. If a grower can only get a certain percentage of his crop covered under this technology, where would you suggest they put it? What would the criteria be for making it the benefit higher to?
As far as from the insect standpoint goes, maximizing your benefit for tarnished plant bug control, I've been recommending to put it in your higher pressure areas. If you're in an area with, surrounded by corn, it seems like in the areas where I've had research where the plant bug pressure is higher, we save more insecticide applications. You get a benefit in low plant bug pressure areas and high plant bug pressure areas, but you save more sprays in higher pressure areas. And so that's kind of where I'd focus it. I talked to some guys that said they were surrounded by corn, and they had some of their ThryvOn get down to 60% square retention under a really, really high adult plant bug migration. And yeah, that may be true. I saw it happen in our plots a couple of years ago when we had some extremely high plant bug pressure. However, the non-ThryvOn varieties right next to it, we were at like 12, 16% square retention comparably, just in the untreated. So I can say that, you're still going to have to spray this technology under some extremely high adult migrations for sure. But this technology is going to perform a lot better and hang a lot more fruit in that situation than, a non-ThryvOn variety would. I think that's where you kind of need to focus it, I know, you got to realize what kind of situation you're putting it in. You got to manage your expectations. You're still going to be able to get some square loss out there under extremely high pressure, but it's going to do better than non-ThryvOn in that situation for sure.
I think with my growers this year, we did just kind of a shotgun approach. I said, let's try it everywhere. And I said, we all had our theories about where it would work the best, but with having a few thousand acres that I'm looking at this year in different geographies and locations, soil types, and different environments, I think it was exciting for me to be able to evaluate this, because in my mind, I think Ben and several of us, we've all talked about what's the best place to capture the full value of this. You can make an argument to be put in any situation and you'd win, I think.
Not a bad situation.
Right. I mean, you're not going to lose.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I did consider, though, was whenever my guys started planting cotton in early April this year, I said, let's do the ThryvOn first. I said, at least you've eliminated one of your stresses. I said, now, we can hopefully battle through some cold soil temps and stuff like that, but at least you're eliminating one of your stresses in April with the thrips and give you a better chance of kind of battling through with that. I can make the argument that the very last cotton you planted needs to be ThryvOn because you've got to manage it in a hurry. And if you don't have to worry about thrips, and maybe you can help out on the plant bug some, and if it's going to get vegetative and grow faster, hey, it gives you off to, if you have to plant real late or replant. I can make an argument for it being near corn. I can make an argument for it, but one of the main scenarios I wanted to look at it in was in fields that we cannot spray well with an airplane.
Yeah.
Because while the nooks and crannies, I've got fields literally shaped like stars, and so it's nothing but point rows. And you can, it's not fair to ask a pilot to risk his life to go in there and spray all that. So in my mind, I wanted to look at it in those scenarios where, hey, we got a power line on this side, pine thicket on one side, a neighborhood on the other, and just put it in an impossible situation for it to be sprayed correctly. And those are the areas that I'm probably most proud of it being because of what Ben said. If you didn't do that, and it would say not sprayed the whole year, I mean, it's going to be ugly. It's a picture frame around the whole field.
Yeah.
At least for ThryvOn, you got something helping you in those border areas that can at least make a showing, at the end of the year. So, like I said, I think it's another thing that we'll figure out over the course of time, but I don't think there's a right or wrong place for it. I think it fits.
Yeah. You have, here's scenario A through Z.
Yeah.
Basically.
Right.
Take which one fits.
Right. I've had it on about a 1,200 acre block last year, all ThryvOn. And I would not have had to have sprayed. I could have border sprayed all year long, just around the borders, and never sprayed the middle part of that block. Never would have had to. And for some, that's the benefit. And maybe some other places in a little old star-shaped field, it's best there. But I think it can fit everywhere.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Unless you're going to get into the drone application.
I hope so.
That's another story for another day, though.
So over winter, we talked a lot about placement, and I think the main reason we talked about placement over winter was availability, number one, and then price would be number two. And I think those two things may change quite a bit as we move forward. So if availability obviously should be better, and I think the pricing is changing. So I don't think they've officially announced anything yet, but it's about to get a lot easier to say A through Z, it would be appropriate.
Yeah. Okay. Well, great. Gentlemen, I appreciate your time today. It's been good to get together and talk about the technology. We'll see how things work out as we get into harvest and certainly move into next year. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. So, all right. That's it for this episode of the Cotton Companion podcast. We want to give a big thanks to Tyson Raper, Ben Thrash, and Hank Jones for visiting, sharing knowledge with Jim, and sharing their impressions of ThryvOn's first year on the market. As always, we want to say thank you, dear listeners, for joining us. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode, and if you like what you've heard, go ahead and spread the word. Tell your farming friends and neighbors about the Cotton Companion podcast. Here's where and how they can find us.
You can find the Cotton Companion in 3 easy ways. First, go to cottongrower.com/companion, or simply click the podcast tab at the top of the homepage. Second, subscribe to our channel on iTunes or wherever you find your podcasts these days. And 3, sign up for our weekly e-newsletter, the Cotton Grower e-News, that's delivered to your email inbox every Tuesday morning. You can do that by going to cottongrower.com/subscribe. Also, be sure to follow Cotton Grower on social media. We are at Cotton Grower Mag on Twitter. And on Facebook, you'll find us by searching for Cotton Grower Magazine.
The Cotton Companion podcast is produced twice monthly by Tyler Hatch and Kim Henderson, our talented colleagues at the world headquarters for Meister Media Worldwide in lovely Willoughby, Ohio. I'm Jim Stedman, he's Beck Barnes, and we'll be back with you in a few weeks with the next episode of The Cotton Companion. Until then, stay safe.
Yeah, he works and he works and he works and he works all day. God made a farmer